He's averaging 5 turnovers a game. I think he's exhausted. Hello and welcome to the Hoop Collective podcast. We talk about the NBA, which we're doing Sunday night just before midnight on the East Coast. Guess who was at the New York Knicks Boston Celtics Game 3 on Saturday, making his first appearance in the Garden since fatherhood? Tim Bontemps.
Hello, everybody.
Joining us from Denver, Colorado, where he was at the pivotal Game 4 today between the Thunder and Nuggets, which will not be being shipped to Springfield, but was an important game nonetheless, is Ben MacMahon.
Howdy, partners. You know what? I play Sunday morning pickup ball on in the summers, and the shooting in the first half, especially of this game, reminded me a little bit of those runs.
Well, I guess we'll start right there. Just to lay in Cavs' corner here. I think, first off, the Thunder were facing some adversity about how to handle clutch time, because it was very clear that they struggled earlier in this series, and they had to sit around for 2 days and listen to how Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was 0 of 7 and all that, and they found themselves in a clutch time game. However it got there, it was a clutch time game, and the Nuggets were throwing zone and double teams at Shai, and he was basically having to pass a lot, and he came in the game with 9 minutes left. I think it was a 1-point game. It was whatever it was, his 1 or 2 possession game, very close. And Shai won the day going down the stretch. He will not be putting that game in his career highlights. He's probably had 200 games where he's had better fourth quarters, but he delivered what the Thunder needed. And it was an absolute mud game, street fight. Every loose ball was nasty, very little skill on display, but MacMahon, he did what he had to do. He scored, I think, 9 points in the fourth and got the Thunder to 2-2, which was all that matters.
Yeah, and Shai did not have a bucket in the second half. He had a few free throws, but not a bucket in the second half until there was 4:36 remaining. He was finally able to kind of slither through a crack in the defense, which we all know he's great at, but the Nuggets have done an amazing job defending him schematically and just from an individual effort standpoint. But he's finally able to slither through a crack, boom, hit the little floater, almost a layup. 5-second violation for the Nuggets, like coming out of a timeout there, boom, hits a turnaround. And then, a little over 2 minutes left, kind of hit a dagger layup. So he had 3 buckets in crunch time. That equaled the Thunder team's entire total in crunch time of their 2 losses in this series. The whole reason that this series is competitive is because the Thunder struggled so much in crunch time in game 1, which they collapsed, and in game 3 when they scored 2 points in overtime after blowing a lead down the stretch. And look, give the Nuggets credit defensively. Obviously, Aaron Gordon's hit some huge shots, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that was big. Oklahoma City's depth, people talk about depth doesn't matter during the playoffs and, the rotations get tight and da-da-da-da. Oklahoma City's depth was also huge in this game. And on a night where damn near everybody on both teams couldn't buy a bucket, Aaron Wiggins hit some huge shots. Cason Wallace, who was playing a lot in this game, in part because Lou Dort was not only struggling to make shots, but was not being guarded. Cason Wallace had some big shots. Alex Caruso, those 3 guys getting double figures off the bench is what kind of allowed the Thunder to regain the lead in the fourth quarter. And man, Joker doesn't want to talk about fatigue, but fellas, 7 games in 13 days for the Nuggets, this one being a very quick turnaround from a late tip Friday night that went in overtime to the early tip, primetime in Serbia, early afternoon tip today. So 38 hours later, whatever the hell the math is. Dude, this was the ugliest first quarter of basketball I've ever seen in an NBA playoff game. They combined for 25 points. The Nuggets scored 8 points in the first quarter. These two teams combined to miss 32 of their first 33 three-pointers. This was a hideous basketball game that was just competitive down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, I think Brian calling it a game that was in the mud is a perfect way to describe it. I mean, these were two teams that looked tired, that looked like they played, like you said, 36 hours after an overtime game at altitude. There was no legs on either side. You saw that in the jumpers for everybody. Jumpers were all over the place. That's what happens when you got tired legs. And in a game like that, you just need to find a way to pull it out, especially when you're a Thunder team that saw that early disaster, even more disastrous offense from Denver completely flip around. Denver takes the lead. Looks like they're going to pull the game away. You mentioned the depth. Aaron Wiggins and Cason Wallace hit back-to-back threes early in the fourth quarter, immediately get them back in touch distance. Then they bring Shea in. And like you said, wasn't a pretty game from Shea. Stat line wasn't perfect, but he made the plays that mattered late. He made sure they got the win. And as he said after the game, 0-0, first of two wins. They got 2 games at home. They get home court advantage back. And with the deeper, younger team, you have to give the edge to the Thunder going forward in the series just because of the fact that, as you said, Denver's coming off the 7-game series. They look tired. Joker 2 for 7 in the fourth quarter, 1 for 4 from the foul line. He looked tired. The Nuggets as a team look tired. And you've got to think, as this thing continues to be every other day for the rest of this week, it feels like an edge for the Thunder. And this game felt like to me that when that fourth quarter started and the Nuggets were winning, I mean, you were there, MacMahon. I don't know what you thought. I thought this was the series today. And if Denver could find a way to get this game at home, I didn't think Jokic was losing 3 in a row. I feel like now that it's 2-2, I'm certainly not counting Denver out, but I think the Thunder will find a way to get 2 of these next 3.
I don't think Jokic is tired. I think he's exhausted.
Sure. And look, let's also, I agree with you. And part of the reason he's exhausted, he had to bang with Ivica Zubac for 7 games. Now he's dealing with Isaiah Hartenstein. Then they're bringing Jalen Williams, Jay Will, who's just, look, if they whistle for fouls, whoop-de-doo, he's going to play 12 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 max. Like, okay. And they're playing physical as hell with them. They're swarming all around that. Honestly, like I'm baffled that in game 1, Chet Holmgren spent the most time on Joker as the primary defender. I think if they'd had Hartenstein start off on him and Jay Will come in on him, that this rotation, I think this is 3-1 OKC with a chance to close it out in game 5.
So you're going to see a lot of stats about Jokic's last 3 games, bad shooting. I'm not calling it 3. I'm calling it 7 because I'm going all the way back to games 5, 6, and 7 of the Clippers series where I felt he was off. Mm-hmm. And this is a guy who over the last 3 playoffs has shot 56% from the field. Okay. Efficiency master in these 7 games. And so I the reason I'm going to 7 is it's a bigger sample size for me. He's shooting 40%. Okay.
Well, and in these 3, he's shooting 33.3. It's the worst 3-game shooting stretch of his career.
Right. But I got that. Yeah, you're going to see that 10,000 places tomorrow. I'm saying, look at the last 7 games.
Right.
Okay. He hasn't had a bad 6 days. He's had a bad 15 days. He's shooting 26% on threes in there. And I'm going to tell you something else. 2 other things I think you're going to see. This is a guy who shoots awesome at the foul line. He's never had a season where he shot under 80% at the foul line. Last year in the playoffs, he shot 90% at the foul line. He's shooting 75%. So his
huge misses in the fourth quarter today. Maybe the biggest misses of the game were at the free throw line for him.
I think he's exhausted. He's averaging 5 turnovers a game. I think he's exhausted. Now I know that his exhausted doesn't look like the average player's exhausted. They're playing 6 players. I mean, Peyton Watson's barely playing.
Well, and also remember, we're talking about a guy who was carrying this team all season. Jamal Murray banged up in and out of the lineup at times. Aaron Gordon missed 30 games. Like they have had injuries throughout the year. And Jokic himself has had some injuries, which he typically hasn't had, and has played through stuff and has been unbelievable. all season, right? And like, I think it's a cumulative effect of all of that stuff. And we even talked about it watching that Nuggets Clippers series. That felt like a conference semifinal. And the Thunder on the other side swept the
Cruised.
Grizzlies and were chilling. And they still look tired playing these guys,
Career
right? These
high, by
games
the
are
way,
physical.
career high 37
slugfests.
minutes a game this year.
Yeah. I mean, these games are physical slugfests. The last series was a physical slugfest. He's banging on Zubac the whole series, right? Like he's having to deal with him the whole time. Like it's just a heavy load. And even in this series, he's got, like you said, MacMahon, he's got Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren both on him, just making life difficult. He's got to work for every shot. They've got Dort banging on it. Like
Jalen Williams coming in and just wrestling
depth
with
and size. Depth and size. It's nice to have.
Well, and then you've got
it's
guys like you got your help defenders. You know, obviously Chet's a lot of times that kind of backline help defender, but you've got Caruso swarming in. You got Case and Wallace. You know, Jalen Williams, J Dub. These guys that are just great hands, great like active. I don't even call them help. Like to me, when the Thunder send a second guy, it's not even help defense; it's harass defense.
Yeah,
and this like as bad as Joker's shooting has been. And again, 15 to 29 in game one, which by his is still subpar by his standards. He's 21 of 63 in the last few games. And there's some heaves in there, including one at the fourth quarter buzzer. He's just out of habit when they're down 5 today. But still, like he can't buy a jumper right now. And then he's so good at those touch baskets. Like he brought up a little hook that he had, couldn't get that to go down. Just doesn't have that same touch right now. The most glaring Joker offensive stat to me right now in this series is assist to turnover ratio. 19 assists, 23 turnovers.
Yeah,
you never see that.
Remarkably low assist, extraordinarily high turnovers.
I'm going to give you a couple stats here that just explain this encapsulation perfectly. The Nuggets had 20 points in the paint today. So forget about the fact that your legs are dead, okay, for your jumpers. 20 points in the paint. That is the lowest the Nuggets have had in any game for 15 years.
I mean, Joker gets 20 in the paint in a lot of games.
15
This is the
years.
team that's had an elite offense not shooting threes all season.
Okay. And
for the last couple seasons.
And now I'm going to tell you this. They shot 45 threes today, the most they've ever shot in a playoff game in franchise history. So here we have a team that is dragging ass, can't get, just not even able to get into the paint, and they're bailing out the Thunder by just hoisting threes.
And they missed their first 16 threes. And I'm telling you, at least 3 or 4 of them were air balls.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, speaking of that, I think that, you could say some stuff about Mark Daignault and the way he coached this game. The zone offense for the Thunder was not exactly great at times. There was a lot of like one pass and shoot possessions, but it took some stones down 2-1 in the series to not play Lou Dort in the fourth quarter of this game. He shouldn't have played Lou Dort in the fourth quarter of this game. They were leaving him wide open, letting him shoot the ball. He couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. And he goes to Case and Wallace. He goes to Aaron Wiggins. He goes to Caruso. Those guys all made huge plays. Dort doesn't play the whole fourth quarter. It's a big part of why they won the game.
Yeah, those 3 guys not only were double-figure scores, but plus minus. Caruso plus 12, Case and Wallace plus 12, Wiggins plus 14.
Yeah,
it was that depth and those dudes that got him in position to win, and then Shea was able to close the door.
Yeah, for sure. It was just a big thing for him to do that because it would be very easy to say, hey, we're in trouble. We're going to go with the guys that got us here. And I don't think they would have won if they'd done that.
By the way, as poorly as Lou shot the ball, and he was 2 of 10 from the floor and from three-point range, all his shots were threes. They're not guarding him. As poor as he shot it, he was the only Thunder starter to hit a three-pointer today. Shea 0 of 5. Jalen Williams, who had a really rough game, 0 of 5.
The Thunder bench won him the game. The bench scoring was 35-8.
Yeah.
And part of the reason is the Nuggets don't play anybody.
Well, and also another part of the reason is Russ was awful today. 6 points, 2 of 12, fouled out, had 4 fouls in the fourth quarter, was a huge reason that the Thunder were in the bonus in the fourth quarter with 6.5 minutes to go. Just was out of control. And like, this was it was a bad Russ game, really bad Russ game. And like you said, he's basically the only guy they play off the bench. Peyton Watson played 9 minutes, and then they dusted Julian Strawther off for 5 minutes today.
Yeah, I'm not counting it. I'm saying they're playing 6.5
You're
players,
right.
basically.
You're right.
Look, I'm not putting anything past Joker. Tuesday, he could come in and look fresh as a daisy in Oklahoma City. I'm just telling you. I know that when I begin talking to the producers for First Take tomorrow, they're going to be saying,
when you sleep update.
Well, get up. I'll be up at 3:45 a.m. I'm in LA.
Oh, wow. Dedication.
I was with Bontemps yesterday in New York. Now I'm in LA.
When travel update.
It's a really tough. It's a really tough life. It's a really tough life that he's got.
Honestly, it is pretty tough. But go on. Hold on. Let Wendy finish. I interrupted him so rudely.
There was like 6 flights that left at Newark today, and I luckily it was on one of them. So I wouldn't put anything past him. But while there's going to be like this, is this a referendum game on the MVP race and everything like that? Because, that MVP, they're going to announce the schedule coming up, and I'm thinking it's coming this week, right?
It certainly should be. All NBA and MVP should be this week.
It's going to be boring, but I'm just going to say Jokic is tired.
Well, he is. And honestly, Shea has not had efficiency can be a tough thing to hold up as a standard in the playoffs when these things, it's just gritty and grimy. But Shea, by his standards, has had 2 good performances in the playoffs. 2.
He's had like 4 games where he shot under 40%, I think, 3 or 4 games. I mean, that just doesn't happen.
Yeah. And again, today it was a real struggle for him, and that zone is really giving him problems. It's in some ways it's almost a boxing one on him, and he's just not. He's so good at slithering into the cracks of the defense, and he just hasn't been able to do that until it was crunch time. And unlike Game 1 and Game 3, Shea got it done with the game on the line today.
Well, when you were at Game 5 of this round last year in Oklahoma City, and it was 2-2. And an all-time great player was on the other side coming into Oklahoma City, just like now, right? And Oklahoma City couldn't get it done. They lost series in 6 games. Safe to say that they better win this game at home in Game 5. You do not want to be, if you're the Thunder, it's very easy to say, but you do not want to be down 3-2 going back to Denver with this guy having a chance to close the series out on you. Because I feel pretty confident if they are able to find a way to win Game 5, Nikola Jokic ain't going to have a bad game in that Game 6. Doesn't mean the Thunder can't win, but if he's going to, I'm going to count on that guy to summon it in a chance to close the series out. So, they'd be very advised to take care of home.
The miracle of the last few games is in the worst shooting stretch of Joker's career, the Nuggets were able to salvage 1 win.
I was just going to say, we haven't talked about him 1 second this whole time, but we should shout out Aaron Gordon, who continues to be unbelievable.
He's having the best playoffs of his career, and he was a defining player for them when they won the title 2 years ago. Even with that on his resume.
Yeah, he's hit 2 game winners and another OT forcing shot in the last 30 seconds of the 4th quarter.
And he's
a big part of what's giving Shea trouble.
Yeah, he's out there smothering Shea like a lot. All right. Cavs corner.
Oh boy.
Pacers lane right now. Again.
Yeah, Cavs corner. There's some boarded up windows right now, baby.
There's going to be a lot of focus on Monday and Tuesday about, the 64 win Cavs, failing and whatnot, which we will discuss in a second. But I do not want to short shrift the Indiana Pacers, who since January 1st are now 41-16, and who came out in this game and crushed the Cavs. To me, this is a series. There's been 2 things about this series. One has been the Cavs injuries, but whatever.
And 2 to be continued on that one.
We'll get there. 2 has been the Cavs, or 2 has been the who wins the pace of play. The Pacers have controlled the pace of play in 3 of the 4 games. In Game 3, the Cavs threw a zone defense out there. They slowed Indiana down. 104 points in that game for Indiana. You could tell from the opening tip-off, the Pacers were like, I don't know who's going to win, but we're going to play our speed, and they totally imposed their will of the pace of play, and that is their strategy. Their strategy is to play faster than you want to play. Their strategy is to wear you out. Their strategy is to play physical and rough and hard. And it's annoying if you're the opponent, and it's working.
Dude, they scored 80 points in the first half. They more than doubled up the Cavaliers. They scored more points in the first half than the Nuggets and Thunder combined to score in the first half of the game that I covered here in Denver.
Yeah. And by the way, Halliburton had 11 points. It wasn't like he had 40.
Well, he certainly didn't need to. And you could see from the opening tip of the game that the Cavs are totally on tilt. Kenny Atkinson has talked a lot about the physicality in the series over the first couple of games. They look like a team that couldn't handle it. Max Strus, 90 seconds into the game, is getting into it with Pascal Siakam for really no reason. You see, I know, obviously Benedict Mathurin got ejected, just relax.
We'll get there.
My point, you can talk about it later. The point is, if you watch how the whole first half played out, the Cavs, it wasn't just that the Pacers were playing well. The Cavs were completely out of sorts.
Totally agree.
From Jump Street, and they didn't look mentally in the game from the beginning. And that, to your point, it's a total credit to the Pacers for the way they have physically worn them down as the series has gone on. Even in the fourth quarter of Game 3, when they're up in the game, the Pacers still got back in the game, were physical, made them uncomfortable. It's been the theme of the series through the first 4 games.
Regardless of the injuries, the Cavs were not mentally strong in this game, period. The Pacers were mentally a rock in this game. All right. The most important thing I think coming out of this game, however, is the health status of Donovan Mitchell.
Not great.
So he was warming up for the second half, and there's footage of it. It's TNT footage from the camera that's in the backboard, and he's out there early. He's one of the first players out there, and he goes to rise up to take a 3-pointer, and he stops himself and goes down, crouches down and starts, grabbing his leg, and he walks off and never comes back. He's having an MRI on Monday. The Cavs reported to be a left ankle injury. So I am not in position to dispute that. I am just saying that he never got off the ground.
And he'd been dealing with left calf issues for a while.
He'd been dealing with left calf issues throughout the series. And, this happened last year. He had to play a lot of extra hard minutes in the early part of the playoff games, started having left calf issues, tweaked it in the middle of the series against what was the second round series against the Boston Celtics, missed the last 2 games. Yeah. In this series, he has had to carry an enormous load. Now, he is playing amazing. He came in averaging over 40 points a game in the series. He had 33 in game 1, 48 in game 2, 43 in game 3. He doesn't have crazy minutes. He hasn't played more than 37 minutes, but they're hard minutes. He's, because Garland's been out, he's had to play point guard. And I don't look, if he can't play, if you're trying to construct some sort of 3-1 comeback,
wrap it up.
Garland,
especially with Darius Garland not looking right at all.
Garland's playing with some modified shoe to hold his toe in place.
Look, the Cavs if they pull off a comeback in this series, it's going to be miraculous. And the thing that's really tough is a second round exit for the Cavaliers this season is a massive disappointment. They played themselves into much, much higher expectations than they had entering the season. So if they get waxed in the second round, if they get booted in 5 games, even 6 games, whatever, then it is a huge, huge disappointment where that, not like none of us thought they were contenders coming into the season, but then you have to you're watching them and they're best record in the East and, they raised the bar for themselves.
So look, they are now facing potentially all 3 of their all-stars getting hurt in the series. So it's they had one of the worst injury runs in 2015 finals, 2015 playoffs, where Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving were knocked out. Irving not until the finals, but that is horrendous injury luck. And by the way, the Cavs protected those guys throughout the whole year. Everybody pretty much had their career lows in minutes. So, it's not like they were working them out through the year. And that's just
at the same time, Evan Mobley had an ankle sprain and missed one game. And, Darius Garland has missed a couple games with this toe injury, yes. But they were a 64-win team that talked all year about their depth and how they were playing through the year. And it doesn't excuse the fact that they've been fairly handled throughout the first 4 games of the series.
Right. So let me just say this. As you know, in any series, teams that win the championship go on the road and get slapped in an individual one-off playoff game.
Yep.
Whether you lose by 85 points or you lose by 15 points, you get blown out. It happens. Okay.
Happened to the Nuggets in game 2. They won game 3.
The Pacers were brilliant in this game. The Cavs were horrible. You put those two things together, that's why you get this lopsided. The reason why the Cavs are down 3-1 in the series is because they botched game 2.
Yep.
And the Pacers made some incredible plays down the stretch, particularly Halliburton. The step back 3 was an absolute dagger. The
So
hustle.
good he didn't get fined for the big balls dance.
They just didn't have it in them. Joe Dumars left, and they were like, you know what? That's fine.
Listen, Papa Halliburton standing in front of the TV, waving that towel. I mean, it was a hell of a moment.
Look, all of this is elementary, though, right? It doesn't really matter. The bottom line is they're down 3-1, and they're on the verge of losing the series and having their season end way early. And as Tim said, it would be a massive disappointment. We just have to call it like it is. Here's a stat for you. There are 28 teams in the history of the league that have won at least 64 games. The Cavs are one of them, so there's 27 others. 2 of those teams didn't get out of the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
The 67. Hold on.
I'm gonna stop you.
Trivia
no,
time. Trivia
no,
time.
no,
Trivia
Brian,
time.
No, you can't discount the fact that they have. Well, we'll talk about it in a sec. I'm going to stop them. No, you can't. You have four of their core players injured.
The Cavs corner excuse maker. Hold on.
Come on. Come on.
Nope.
Trivia first, excuses You can't compare historically. Those teams didn't have all these injuries.
Excuses next. First, excuses next. 67-win Mavs that lost to the We Believe Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Spurs.
Did Dirk get hurt and miss games in that series? I can't remember.
Tim, you were at this team's demise.
I was at this.
The other team, both of them.
67-win Mavs.
Yeah.
I was going to say the 2011 Spurs. They didn't win that many games.
Oh, it was the 60-win Spurs when Kawhi sprained his ankle.
No, I wasn't at that one.
They lost in the conference finals.
Oh, that's right.
Okay. A lot of teams lost in the conference finals.
I was at the team's demise. This was in the conference semifinals.
Mm-hmm. Recent years.
Golly, I'm getting old. So
I could give you one more hint, but you will then know the answer.
All right, give me one more hint. Oh, the Jazz. I wasn't at that.
No. The Mavs won the game.
Oh, duh. You talk about a playoff debacle, Game 7 in Phoenix. That's right.
Correct. That Suns team.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that.
That Suns team was, there was allegedly COVID going through their team, so it might be somewhat comparable. Although,
listen, Wendy, you're making a bunch of excuses.
Well,
they lost game 1 at home. They got completely waxed today. Like, they don't deserve to be.
No, I don't. I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying you can't say
the guys all played today and they got obliterated.
They were down by
let's relax. Let's relax with the excuses.
Injury had nothing to do with them losing today.
I agree. What did I just say? Anybody can get beat in one game.
You're giving us excuse sandwiches, like excuse.
Okay, give me a break. You can't say they're one of the greatest failures in the history of all time and not acknowledge the fact that they had injuries.
I didn't say they're one of the greatest failures of all time.
The
I
stat was
said-
you were basically saying they were one of the
The
greatest players of all
stat
time.
is
hold on.
that
You know what?
is a massive disappointment if they lose this series. You
Yes.
can
Oh my
have
God. I just
reasons
got a-
why they lose the series, but
I
it's
just
still
got
a
an
massive
update.
disappointment.
I just got an update from Stats Williams. He says Wendy's sensitivity ratio is an all-time
Well, I mean,
high.
look, guys, I'm a grade A realist. It's fine, but like you can't. The reason that that they fell behind 0-2.
Brian, let's just call a spade a spade.
He
You
got
were
it.
on
He
this
let him finish the
podcast-
sentence. I want to hear the
no,
excuse.
no, it's fine. You were on this podcast a week ago after they annihilated the Heat twice, talking about the Cavs like they were
They
hotter
looked
than anything.
great. They
You
were.
the
yes.
parade marshal.
That's my
They
point.
were.
So there are reasons why they're in the position, but if you'd said a week ago that the Cavs are going to be down 3-1 in the series and will have been down 41 at halftime of game 4.
Again, I don't care if they were down 175. Anybody
Okay.
can lose one game. The reason that they're off in the series is they are now looking at having 3. If Donovan comes back and looks fresh as a daisy in game 5, fine. I don't know if he's playing in game 5. And go find the stat on 3 All-Stars missing games in the series and how those teams did.
I think the only Daisy reference with the Cavaliers is they're soon going to be pushing them up.
Well, that may be true.
No one, Tim and I are not sitting here saying that the Cavs should nuke the franchise if they lose the series. It's also a very disappointing ending to the season and not what this team expected when the playoffs started. They were expecting to be hosting game 1 of the conference finals.
Clearly. But I'm going to tell you something. The Pacers, you guys know I came back from France talking about the Pacers. And you guys know, and I'm telling you the Cavs.
Another discovery, MacMahon. Add it to the list.
Even if the Cavs, I'm going to tell you this, even if the Cavs were full strength, they were going to have their hands full. I think this sucker was going the distance.
The Pacers are legit. They are deep. They've got top end talent. I don't know if Halliburton, I don't know, what is he? Is he he's a top 15 player in the league. Dude, they've got great role players. They have great role players. Miles Turner's a great role player. Nembhard, Nesmith.
Tonight they're bigs. Siakam, Turner, and Obi Toppin. Obi Toppin's combo forward, but he was essentially plays backup big for them. They were like 25 of 37 for 60 something points. Like they crushed.
Hey, Siakam has been a great trade for them to give them another all-star caliber player. And you know what? Carlisle can coach. He can coach his ass off. He's not a guy you want to invite to your birthday party, but the man can coach.
I'll invite him to my birthday party. I don't have birthday parties, but
he didn't show up for the Wonder Boy book party.
I understand.
Well, let's hope Donovan Mitchell's health. No, go ahead.
Yeah. What is your more amazing? I'll let Bontemps. What is MacMahon's? Not exactly like an immersive journalist, but what is MacMahon's?
What is that supposed to?
Well, he's not like he doesn't do like flowery features where he But what is the crazier thing that MacMahon did for a story? Pedicure with Rudy Gobert or letting Rick Carlisle fly him in his little teeny Cessna plane?
That was pretty damn immersive.
It was very immersive. I'm saying you're not known as being an immersive journalist, and yet here are 2 events.
I'm known for my charm and good looks and versatility.
Let's put this on the record. Windhorst refuses to let anybody say anything negative about the Cavs when they're about to potentially lose in the second round of the playoffs.
No.
Then he turns around with not a one-handed backhand slap at MacMahon, but a two-handed backhand slap.
Because I said he was the all.
You were clearing your throat to call him an all-time failure, and I just had to stop.
I wasn't.
You absolutely were. You absolutely
were.
Have I told you the Rick Carlisle hot tub story from that trip? I stayed at Rick's place.
Let's hear it,
but I don't think it's on the podcast.
I stayed at Rick's place on that trip. He's got a place in, I won't say exactly where, but he's got a place, beautiful spot in South Carolina. And his wife and daughter were back home. So it's just me and Rick for a couple nights at his place. And there's like a clubhouse. And so he wanted to go like in the hot tub of the clubhouse. I'm like, Rick, I didn't pack a bathing suit. Rick gave me a bathing suit. He assured me that it was unused. It was new, but they were just hanging out in the hot tub, Me and Rick Carlisle, not awkward at all.
Not an immersive journalist at all, though.
He
was literally immersed.
And
He
I
was
went
literally
underneath
immersed.
the water. I immersed myself under the
You-
water.
I
I just want it
was-
said for the record. I do not think the Cavs would be an all-time disappointment if they lose in
Gotcha.
the second round of the playoffs with injuries. It is, however, a massive disappointment. And it is
Gotcha.
worth pointing out that they were 15-0, bled wire to wire in the East all year, had visions of being an NBA Finals team, and are on the verge of getting punked in the second round of the playoffs. This is not
Well, two
what
things
we
can be
expected to
true.
see.
They run into a team that's awesome, that's a bad matchup, and they've had miserable injury fortune.
Listen, today was the worst showing by a Northeast Ohio franchise since you put that dang first pitch in the dirt at the Akron Rubber Ducks game.
All right. We could end up having 3 of the same 4 conference finals next. I mean, the Celtics are still behind. We'll see with that. We'll talk about that.
Bontemps guaranteed 4 straight.
Did he guarantee it? I don't think he guaranteed it.
Oh, he said it with a lot of confidence. You know how Bontemps
Wow.
does.
Of all the confident things Bontemps has ever said, this one is not in the top 10. I mean, like, it's not like an outrageous statement.
Well, look, if you watch game 3, sitting there watching game 3, it just remains unbelievable that the Knicks are up 2-1 in the series because the Celtics have dominated. They've played 7 games, so they've played 14 halves, and the Celtics have dominated 12
All right.
or 13 of the halves.
Let's talk about
so
that
far.
right now. Bontemps and I were at the Garden on Saturday. What percentage of seats do you think was filled at 3:28?
99.9. I'll just assume there was one that was open, but
Did they give away free T-shirts?
They did, but I don't think many Knicks fans were wearing them.
And like OKC, the fits are too good up in New York. Go on.
The Garden fans were so into it. I think my favorite moment of the whole day was when Luke Cornett fouled Mitchell Robinson purposely. And it was like borderline. It was an offensive rebound. Robinson got the offensive rebound, which he's been doing all series. And he was it looked like he might go back up with it. And Cornett fouled him and then ran over to the referees and said, no, he was shooting. And
Yeah, that's
after
interesting.
Mitch had gone 1 out of his first 6 and thrown up a pretty bad air ball, this is one of the things about going to games at the Garden. The crowd in the lower deck around around that end of the court where Robinson was at the line stood up and started cheering him and encouraging him on. So you can do it, Mitch, you can do it. They wanted it so bad, and they were not cynical at all. There was not a cynical thing. It was not a Bronx cheer. They were truly trying to uplift him.
Mhm.
And then it started to spread, and more people got up, saying it. And so it just showed you how invested and how badly those fans wanted it. This was an afternoon game on a weekend. This is not, everybody in their seats at 8:00. No, it was and the Celtics tore their hearts out. They were never in the game.
well, look, the Celtics are 15 points better than them. They've been 15 points better than them for 7 games. The question is if the Knicks have another game in the series, or 2 or 3, where they can make it a 5-point game, 5 minutes to go. If they can do that, they'll give themselves a chance because they operate far better in the clutch than the Celtics do, for the obvious reason that Jalen Brunson was the clutch player of the year for a reason, and Jason Tatum in particular has struggled in those spots a lot. But there's really no way the Knicks can blow the Celtics out. And the Celtics have routinely blown the Knicks out for 7 games. They've led by 20 in every game in the series, and they're down 2-1.
And when you say in the series, you mean the regular season series plus the playoffs?
Yes. They've, the last game, I don't know if they led by 20, but it ended up being kind of close late, and then it wasn't. But there's been very little reason to believe the Knicks had a chance to beat them all season, which is why everyone in New York was so fired up after the way the first 2 games went, because it was like, holy cow, this is the team that they didn't think they could beat. They're somehow up 2-0 in the series. Maybe they can find a way to beat them.
Well, and Mikal Bridges making game-winning defensive plays.
Yes.
That was like, okay, that's the guy that we traded 5 first-round picks
so
to get.
here's the thing. Jalen Brunson and Jason Tatum are still in slumps. They did not break out of their slumps on Saturday. It may have looked like it because they won by 25, but collectively they shot, I think, 15 of 37. In the series, Jaylen Brown is shooting 21% on threes still, and Tatum is overall still shooting 32% and 34 or 35% on threes. They are not out of their slumps. That was, Peyton Pritchard was awesome. He had one of the best playoff game of his career.
Showed why he was a deserving 6th Man of the Year winner.
Like talked to him in the locker room
for them all season.
Talked to him in the locker room after the game, and I said, because it's the first time I actually talked to him face to face since he won the award. I congratulated him on winning the award and said, "Man, what would you have said if I told you 2 because 2 years ago he wasn't playing."
Yeah,
he literally wanted to be traded away.
Yeah, he was.
I mean, even last year in the finals, like he only played when it was time to hit a 45-footer at a quarter buzzer.
Which, by the way, he made a buzzer beater. It was just a 2-pointer, but he made a buzzer beater on Saturday. But he's like, I never would have believed it. He's like, but I just gotta keep focusing. I go, it's okay. I'm just saying 2 years ago, I wouldn't have believed that you would have had a 25-point game in the Garden and you would be 6th Man of the Year. So here's the reality. Here's the reality from the Knicks standpoint. Jalen Brunson's not having a good series. He had awesome clutch time in games 1 and game 2, and wouldn't have another guy with the ball in his hands. But he is shooting 38% in the series. The Celtics are keeping him off the foul line. He averaged 9 free throws a game in the Detroit series. He's averaging 6 free throws a game. It doesn't sound like that big of a difference, but they're doing a good job because he's trying to get to that line. So they're averaging in regulation, because they did get one overtime game, but looking in regulation, they're averaging 95 points a game in the three games in regulation. That's not getting it done. Towns hurt his finger on his left hand, or hurt his hand on his left hand. He was 5 of 19. He's not on the injury report, so he's going to play on Monday in game 4, but I don't know where he's going to be. OG Anunoby basically had an awesome game 1 and hasn't been seen on the offensive end since. And the Celtics are fouling the heck out of Mitchell Robinson, and it's working. He's 7 of 23 at the line. He is very important to them because he's creating extra possessions left and right. But the hack of Mitch is working because they're getting a lot of empty possessions. So I hate to say that they need Jalen to deliver, but they need Jalen to deliver if they're going to win game 4. And in my view, if they don't win game 4, I don't see any hope. If they win game 4, now we're cooking. And Jalen could have a 40-point game in him. He can do it, and he is due, but they need.
Look, again, they're up 2-1 in the series. In over 7 games, they've been obliterated by the Knicks by the Celtics this season. You would certainly bet on the Celtics winning 3 more ahead of the Knicks winning 2 more. So we'll see. I'm with you. The Knicks, I think, have to win this game 4 on Monday, and we'll see if they can. But it really is just a matter of, can they find a way to make the game close at the end? Because even the first 2 games, they were down 20 and had sort of bizarre comebacks in the game where the Celtics just stopped scoring for 8-9 minutes at a time. So, they've got to show they can make it competitive for a larger stretch of the game. If they can get the ball to Jalen with 5 minutes to go, they'll take their chances. It's just, can they actually get through the first 43 minutes and get there with him with the ball in a 1 or 2 possession game? If they can, they're going to feel really good about their chance of pulling another win out.
Porzingis also, of the games, looked the most animated he has so far. He had 3 blocks. He only
didn't get a lot
on
offense, but he was giving them some defensive presence, which helped a lot.
Yeah. So the fact that he hasn't been able to give him much was a factor leaning. If you're creating a case for the Knicks in the regular season, the games when he played, he crushed the Knicks. And the fact that he was basically giving them next to nothing the first 2 games was also a factor. So I don't know. I would not take anything off the table for Jalen on Monday, but there is not an indication that it's coming. So, but I think they need him. They need something. So they need points because Tatum and Brown are going to play well at some point. All right. All right. So Aaron Gordon has been playing great. Another guy who, sort of role player that's elevated to really be a difference maker. How about Julius Randle?
The only thing I'll take umbrage with is calling him multi-time All-Star or role player.
Multi-time All-NBA player.
Yeah, he's definitely taken it to another level. He's definitely
all right. Well, look at, have you seen his playoff stats before this year?
He's a guy who has not had playoff success and who's having a great
all right. Unlike somebody else in this podcast, I can accept being corrected. Anyway, he's averaging 22 points, and 6 rebounds and 6 assists, and shooting 48% from the field, and been a huge add-on to Ant, who's sort of been up and down in the playoffs, and got Minnesota pulling out that win. I'm not saying that the Warriors hit him with their best shot that they could have hit him with on Saturday, but they got a great game from Jimmy Butler, and they were at home, and the game could have gone either way, and it was the Warriors who took it. I mean, it's the Wolves who took it.
And just to put this in perspective, Randle during his time with the Knicks, 15 playoff games, 34.4% from the floor, 3.7 assists per game. Like he'd been a very disappointing playoff player. And as you said, he's been an absolute driving force.
Triple-double, by the way, on Saturday.
Driving force in their success so far in this postseason, for sure. And look, this whole year was a lot about kind of finding a comfort zone with Julius Randle, especially. Dante DiVincenzo as well. But remember, those guys were traded like a couple days before camp, and it was clunky for most of the season, and then they figured it out down the stretch, and that's continued in the playoffs. Although they've had some offensive duds. He's definitely, I think it's fair to say, he's been their most consistent player in the playoffs for sure. Ant obviously has just some supernova type of performances.
Well, look, they've played very badly in 2 of the 3 games in the series, and they're up 2-1. And look, Steve Kerr said everything you're supposed to say in the position he's in after game 3, right? Said, I like the formula that we had. I don't think we're that far away. I think we can get a game at home. I walked away from game 3 saying these guys had to win one of these 3 games to get Steph a chance to be back in game 6, a chance. It's hard to believe to me they're going to get a better chance than the one they had in game 3. They got another really good game from Jonathan Kuminga, had 30 points off the bench. I know he was really good in game 2. I don't think he's doing that again in the series. Jimmy goes for 33 points. He's obviously not 100% after this tailbone thing in the first round. They only shot 23 threes, but they hit 43% of their threes. They're playing at home, and Minnesota was bad, and they still couldn't win.
Well, and Ant was awful in the first half. Awful. And in the second half, he was awesome. He played every second, again, of a second half, and the guy had 28 points on 10 of 16 shooting. And there was, I thought he did a great job he had a dominant scoring half without being ball hoggy. There was one particular play with a little over 3 minutes left. It was a crucial time of the game where I was like, Ant, I thought I was thinking like, move the ball. He gets out on the left lane. There's 2 bodies on him. Kicks it to Randle. Randle makes the quick swing, and it's a wide open corner 3. I believe it was Alexander Walker, or as when you would say, Alexander Nikhil Walker, Alexander Walker Nikhil, whatever you want to call it. Anyways,
I'm always botching that.
But it was the exact kind of play that Finchie's been hammering on Ant. Like, make the right play, get off the ball, and it doesn't go down in the box scores anything for him. But I thought it was another example of his recent maturation.
Yeah. So I don't know. The Kuminga thing is fascinating.
Look, the bottom line is the way he plays, he's got to have the ball a lot. And so if you have Steph and Jimmy, there's not really room at the end for him. With one of them out, there's a role for him. He's played great the last couple games. But again, is he going to make every single shot and score 30 points like he did each of the last 2 games? I don't think so. So maybe he will. Maybe he'll just keep doing that. But I came away from that one thinking that was the one the Warriors had the chance to steal. And
Without question.
Well, and you know what else happened?
They could maybe look very dumb on Monday. It would be the first time Jimmy pulled one out of his hat the last couple of years in the playoffs. But I got to think Minnesota's going to play better than that. And we've seen the Warriors were struggling to score with Steph in these playoffs. Now they don't have him. It's a very big hill to climb.
You know what else happened in the second half? Draymond Green played a little less than 12 minutes, picked up 4 fouls after halftime, didn't score, bowed out of the game. You know, in a game where they really needed him, he wasn't there for him. I mean, you know, went and watched the last however many minutes from the bench.
Well, he didn't get a technical.
Only because the refs turned the other way after he fouled out and didn't listen to him.
We have a big event on Monday night. For all the teams that have not in the playoffs, this is what they've been looking for as long as they didn't trade their pick. It's the Cooper Flag Lottery in Chicago on Monday. I'll just do it this way. How about we do this? Who would you like to see win the Cooper Flag Lottery?
Can I give more than one team?
Of course.
For an NBA standpoint, I would like to see him wind up on the Eastern Seaboard with either Philly, Brooklyn, or Washington. Every single guy
from an NBA or from a Bontemps travel standpoint.
Well, look, I mean, if you look at the last 20 years since LeBron got drafted, right? Every single time a player like this has been available at the top of the draft, he's gone to the Western Conference. Every single time. And not always with the number 1 pick, but Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, Luka Doncic, Karl Towns, Victor, Zion Williamson, John Morant. Like, go down the list, right? Every single time one of these guys has gone to the Western Conference. It would be good at some point if one of these players got drafted by an Eastern Conference team. If for no other reason than to have some sort of balance to the conferences at some point. But let's say our friend Will Hardy, who just got a contract extension very deservedly recently, let's say the Jazz get him. Like, sure, okay, there'll just be another ridiculous team in a couple of years in the West. Like, because there's already not enough playoff spots, including the play-in, for teams out West. So
I don't think the Suns deserved a chance to play in the postseason this year.
That's
but okay,
fine.
go on.
I'm just saying that I watched the play-in games out East. It wasn't exactly the same level. I'll just put it that way. So, you know, I would like to see him wind up out here somewhere for that reason. But it's going to be a fascinating lottery.
The funniest possible outcome would be the Rockets, who have 3.8% chance of being number 1 pick. Thanks to the
Rockets
Suns.
and the Spurs, I would say.
Well, the Spurs have. Let me do math.
Well, the Spurs would just be a fun outcome. The Rockets would be the funniest outcome.
Well, the Rockets would be fun too. You add Cooper Flag to that next. Oh boy.
I agree. I just mean because of the fact that the Nets, I think correctly, traded that pick to Houston to get control of their next 2 drafts back, and the fact that the Suns, the team that 26 out of 29 teams would have traded places with a year ago, according to their owner, would potentially give up the number 1 pick in the draft by not making the play-in to another Western Conference rival would be a hilarious turn of events.
You keep sticking up for the Nets in that trade. That was a terrible trade. Number 1, how do you not get written in there that you get the higher of the Nets or Suns pick this year? Number 2, the Rockets held on to your 2027 swap. It's a terrible trade. But the Spurs have and I will give the Nets this. They didn't know that the Mavs 29 pick was going to soar in value a few months after making that deal. But the Spurs, between Atlanta and their own, have 6.7% chance to win it. I feel like the basketball gods are not going to let Philly jump up from 5 like that. Sorry, man.
That would be just for angst reasons. That would be amazing to see.
Yeah, the basketball.
I feel like the Sixers pick is going to wind up 1st or 7th. And if it finds up 7th for people, I assume people know, listen to the pod, but in case they
Top
don't,
Sixers.
the top Sixers are the top Sixers
Right.
for a reason. They keep their pick if it stays in the top 6, which means 2 teams have to jump them to fall to
It's
7.
happened. It's
Which
happened.
has happened,
Well, they
especially
are
in the
now.
especially with the new rules. It's a lot more fluid than it used to be and a lot flatter. So,
well, as we discussed, now the 64s because they got 64% chance to keep their pick.
yes, but it feels to me like we're either going to see it land at 7 and that Thunder logo is going to pop up, or they're going to jump way up into the top 1 or 2.
That would be interesting. I think it would be so. For interest reasons, either San Antonio or Houston winning it. Although it don't even need to win it. Just either of them jumping into the top 4, I think, gets things very interesting. Not just for who they could draft, but also as they potentially go into the trade market. So that is where I'm watching San Antonio and Houston. However, the team where I think Cooper Flagg might have a remarkable lane would be if Washington wins. Because that's a franchise that has been in the wilderness for a long time and is basically a dead market right now. And if he goes there, he has the potential to create a
put him there, put him on the Nets, either one, same thing.
Yeah.
The Nets karma is not really on their side. The Wizards haven't had anything happen for them for decades.
Well, I mean,
no, they're coming off a buzzer beater.
Yes, they are. The Nets,
they're on a winning streak.
This pick, the Nets have been playing in Brooklyn since 2012. This will be the first lottery pick the Nets have, and they have sent out the picks that became Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, among others, in the draft.
Tough.
And also the pick that became Reed Shepherd. I believe that's
crazy.
Pretty sure that was their pick that jumped up.
It was. They've had top 3 picks,
and none of them were theirs. Yep. Oh, wow. So look, if Cooper Flagg winds up with the Wizards,
also you want to go further back, they had the Dame Lillard. I know they weren't in Brooklyn yet, but they had the Dame Lillard pick. That Dame Lillard was picked with their draft pick.
Yeah, that is correct. Sixth pick. They traded a top 3 protected pick. Billy King said that there were 3 players they liked in the draft, and they gave up the 6th pick, and it became Dame.
Charlotte and New Orleans would be fascinating for
not New Orleans. He can't go to New Orleans.
Well,
forget karma. All they do is get number 1 draft picks or high draft picks. In New Orleans.
Agree, but it would be fascinating. I think it's, what if anything happens with Zion? What if anything happens with LaMelo is going to be interesting regardless.
Yes.
That would be an interesting element to add to those possibilities, I would say.
Cooper's probably not going to be Victor Wembanyama, but he is one of the better prospects to come along in the last 20 years. And he's the kind of guy that any one of these teams that gets him, Utah, Charlotte, Washington, Brooklyn, any of them, it's going to change the course of the franchise that gets him. Just like look at the Spurs. Like you could say the Spurs are in a great position now. A couple of years ago, like they were kind of floating along. The post-Kawhi era hadn't gone great. And they get that player and everything immediately looks different. And this guy's got a chance to be that kind of players.
One of the most interesting things that you did this year is you and I think it was you and Pelton, but it might have been you and Bobby. I can't remember. You ranked the rebuilds.
It was just me.
Okay.
He wants full credit.
I do lots of things with Bobby and Kevin, but this one was just me.
No, he wants full credit.
You ranked the rebuilds, and basically, I'm looking at you ranked them 1 through 10 or whatever, and basically 2 through 9, you had them ranked, but what the point was, Spurs were number 1, not because of great player development, not because of shrewd management. They do fine. They drafted Castle and but they got lucky in the lottery. That's why they're number 1.
Well, everything looked different.
And they tanked like hell to maximize their odds in that.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. But you can tank like hell and it not go your way.
Last year,
but the Spurs won't win this lottery. They only win the lottery when there's a generational 7-footer at the top.
Well, Cooper's pretty close to 7 feet.
He's 6'9". He's not tall enough.
But last year Atlanta jumped from 10 to 1, right? They jumped from 10 to 1 in a draft that wasn't nearly as good. A lot of this stuff just comes down to dumb luck when you're rebuilding. And for all these teams, again, Washington has this multi-year tear down rebuild, right? They've drafted all these semi-interesting to interesting young players. They've got a bunch of young guys on the team. They got better as the year went along. But if you end up with the 6th pick in the draft, it's just not the same as getting this kind of guy. So for all these teams, like how these ping pong balls bounce, going to shift the next 3 to 5 years for a lot of these teams.
Mhm.
And, look, Utah's a great example. Utah hired a great coach. They just extended him after 3 bad years because he's proven he's a really good coach that has not had a lot to work with by design last year in particular. Like, the Jazz have to just keep trying to get a player like this. They did everything they could do to get it. Like you said, they did just like San Antonio. They have the number one odds. They're going to get no worse than the 5th pick in this draft. But you wind up with the 5th pick. It looks a hell of a lot different than you wind up with Cooper Flag.
Well, that's true, but they have tanked the last 2 years, and they got picks in the middle of the lottery, and they got
the 9th pick twice.
They've tanked in the last year and a half. That's their problem. Is the previous 2 years before this season, they waited until midseason to really go
right,
tank
and they got
they got the 9th pick twice.
They got Hendricks. I don't even remember.
They got Hendricks and
Taylor
Hendricks.
Taylor Hendricks.
Yeah,
and they drafted Cody Williams 10th. But like that's the thing. Like you got to get lucky. So there's going to be a lot of teams sitting around just praying Monday night that a combination of ping pong balls, 4 of them, lines up in their direction, and none of them have a better than 14% chance to do it. Like it's right. A total
which
swing
is why
in the dark.
Is like even at 14%, it's so important to get a high draft pick that it's worth going for it. Like that the calculus in a lot of circumstances says go for it, even for 14%. So, all right. That's enough for tonight. Thank you to Jackson. We'll be up late. Thank you to MacMahon. Thank you to Bontemps. Thank you for watching and listening to the Hoop Collective. We'll be talking to you in a couple of days where we know where Cooper Flag are going. And we'll know just how historically terrible the Cavs playoff failure is going to be. We'll have a full package of stats for that.
And Wendy will be well rested and in a good mood. Adios, amigos.